Hello, this is Toy again with Educator.com's AJAX jQuery course. We're on Lesson 4. Lesson 4 is about putting it all together. There's a quick review. Lesson 3, we pulled together a hand-grown AJAX little function. It was kind of neat. Now let's do it with jQuery, which is a framework for JavaScript, and it has kind of AJAX stuff already built in. So a lot of the stuff that we had done before, which you'll see, will actually be automatically taken care of with jQuery, so we can kind of just focus on actual interaction. Okay, so let's get started. Now this document.getElementById, that should be known to you by now. That's a total JavaScript thing everyone uses. It's probably the most used method out there, document.getElementById. Now actually, document.getElementById, the shortcut for that is the $. Because if we don't want to keep typing document.getElementById, who cares? We know what it is. We use it a billion times a day. Let's just shortcut it with $. I love it. Let's continue. Now, when I use jQuery, I particularly, again, this is my personal thing. You don't have to do it, but I found that this is really kind of necessary when you start working in large-scale projects. It's kind of a good habit to get into. Anytime I know that I'm going to be using jQuery or any specific sections of code that I'm using jQuery with, I just call it, instead of $J. And the reason why is because once you start getting to these large-scale projects that have, developers on it, faces that you haven't even seen before, all of a sudden they show up and they're like, yeah, I've been here since the beginning. It's like, really? Okay. And they're all using different libraries, and they're all using different tools, and they're all using, one's using Mood Tools, one's using Yahoo UI, and there's all this jQuery. There starts getting conflicts, because if everyone's using a $, there's going to be some conflicts. So I just like to use $J and just use $J for everything to notate to myself and to anyone else who reads my code in the future that this is a jQuery area. This chunk of code is for jQuery, and you'll see that as we move along in the class. Now, if you don't want to use $J, that's up to you, but that's how I'm going to proceed with this course. Now we've got $. I'm going to do this. Document.ready function. Why document.ready function? The reason why is what this says is that when the document is ready, i.e., when the entire page is loaded, then do all the stuff that's in there. Okay? Now we want to do that because we want to make sure the HTML page, all of its objects, all of its elements, all of the things like the text boxes and the images and the links, they're all loaded in the page already, so that when we go and do the jQuery stuff on top of it, it knows what it's referring to. So if you want to view it like this, the elements are like the nouns in a sentence. And the jQuery, pen's going a little wonky, sorry. The jQuery actions that you apply on top of it are like the verbs of a sentence. Okay? So say, for example, we load the entire page. We've got all the elements on there. So we've got the noun, and then we add the actions that we want to happen that when a user interacts with it, it does these verbs. All right? If you were to load in your jQuery actions, your verbs, without the noun, you'd be like, okay, what's going on here? What are we doing? Like, I'm walking, or you have walking, but what's walking? Is it the dog, or the apple, or the human? We don't know. You gotta load up your elements first, the nouns, the dog, the human, the apple first, and then apply your verbs, your actions on top of it. Okay? So that's why we do that. Now, how do we actually tell, this is the glue, how do we actually tell which actions go to which nouns? You do notation such as this, where they're called selectors, all right? And this is just a very, there's going to be a whole section on selectors, but this is a very quick overview so that we could just kind of get an idea of how jQuery runs. So in this particular case, so say like we've got on a page, we've got the text box. Okay, this is your text box. And then we've got an image. And then we've also got a link. www.blablabla.com is a link. Okay? And a link notation is exactly that. You know, it's a href equals www.blablabla.com. And then we put the name, www.blablabla.com. And then we close it off. Right? Cool. So, typically a page might have several links on it. And if you want some sort of generic jQuery action to go on every single one of those links, you would say $J A. Now this A refers to this A. Okay? So by doing $J A and then whatever actions that you have following, that action will apply to every single A on the page. When a user clicks on the A, we do that. Okay? The other notation here is this dot. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm trying to highlight it for you. This dot, it's kind of small. Okay. Really important stuff here. The differentiation is that $ denotes a class. So say we've got a whole page of A links on here, hrefs, and say the third link down, we want some sort of special action to happen on when a user clicks on that, just for that one link, okay? Or maybe a couple of those links, we're going to determine it. But this is how you would do it. So say my third href down is something, and then I class it out as special, and I'll call it special 1 because I might have special 2 somewhere else, or special 3, or special 1003. Link. All right. Now, according to jQuery, how I access that, how I attach my action onto that noun, I would say $J paren dot special 1, which is referring to this class name. Oh, I can't make the little arrows. I'm trying to make a little arrow between them. And then do this funky little action for that one. I could attach that class name to several other of my other links on the page if I want the other links on my page to have this special action. Similarly, this £sign here refers to IDs. So say I have a div, and I do this all the time, and I want it to call the results, I want it to call it results, so such as go get the results from this query and dump it into a div with the ID of results. I would refer to that div by saying $J pound results. Action, action, action. Okay? So this $ refers to here. I mean, this pound, dot refers to here. And this pound refers to the ID. And then you can have the generic placement generic across the board. Let's do the A's, such as such. Okay, so that's basic jQuery notation. You could get a lot done just knowing that. All right. The last thing on this list, which is the reason why I put it on this list, is because it's one of my favorite things. I feel like it's one of your best friends in JavaScript and jQuery. If you do JavaScript and you're proficient in JavaScript, you already know what this is. It is the denominator, the nomenclature that points to the object that you are currently using. Okay, actually this is also in PHP as well once you set up your class systems. So in particular, and jQuery has it as well, I know that in JavaScript you can just use this like that and that'll work. In jQuery you do have to do this, $this, so it knows that you're kind of hitting up jQuery. Let's put the J in there so I don't drive you crazy as well as myself. So it's referring to the noun, the element that you just hit. So say, for example, I have, okay, just as in my previous examples, ahref equals such and such, www.blah-blah-blah.com, class equals link link 1. Okay, and then you have www.com and you close it off. Okay, and you click on that and you say you can say something like this. Once you click on it, var href is equal to $J this dot okay, that might be a little too much for now, but just to give you an idea that if I were to use $J this, get me back this, give me back the URL, and I can access it. I can access anything, any attribute, any extended variables that are attached to that link, the thing I just clicked with this. I can access anything inside, just like a typical object-oriented system. I love that. I use this all the time. All right, so now having said all that, let's try to rework that last example that we just wrote together in jQuery. All right, so let's go down our list again. We have the data. Okay, well the data hasn't changed. Data's still good. We're still using the users table. It's still there. Nothing's changed. That's not going to be affected by how we use jQuery. So we're good with that. Let's skip it. The generic JS file. Let's go look at it. Let's see. Let's find it first. The generic JS file, which is here. All right. Well, we still need the spinner. All right, because we're going to use a spinner across the entire site. Here's where we're talking about this no conflict stuff. I'm going to just ask you to, I touched on it briefly. I will touch on it later on the next lesson, I think. But that again refers to that whole thing with the conflicting of different usage of the dollar with different libraries and even just JavaScript. Okay, this whole thing now is not necessary, but I'm going to leave it in there because my example actually still has the old school way of doing it. So let's just leave it in there. It doesn't hurt us by putting it in there, keeping it in there. So we'll kind of keep that. But there's nothing else additional actually in here that we need to have. We don't need to change anything. We don't need to get rid of anything. We don't need to add anything. So just leave it in there. So our generic JavaScript file is good. We don't have to worry about it. Okay, what's next? The HTML file. All right, let's check that out. Here we are. Oh, well, I added all these parts in. Well, you kind of need to add these parts in. A whole second section, the button A, and now if you notice, I've added another class there because I want to be able to attach an action to this element. And the way to attach the action to an element, I have to give it a class or an ID. In this particular case, let's just give it a class. All right? Same thing, jQuery results, and again, this area here for the results that we're going to put it in. And again, it has to have a name so that I can attach stuff to it. All right? Let's just see what this looks like right now in Firefox. It looks like that, but let me just refresh it. Looks like that. Great. The great part of this is that this is the old school way. Still working. Awesome. This does not work because nothing's attached to it yet. Nothing. We haven't done it yet. So let's go and build it. All right. All right. What's next? The specific JavaScript file. Okay. We actually need to do something here because right now we got to add all the jQuery stuff. So let's bring it up. Okay. Now, as you see, remember, this is the old school way. This is the hand-grown. I'm going to type this in here so you know. Hand-grown method. AJAX method. All right. Let's get on with the jQuery method. All right. We're going to start off, if you recall, we're going to start off with the with this here. The document.ready function, because we want to make sure the jQuery stuff, the actions load up after the nouns have loaded up, after the elements have loaded up. All right? All right, so that's going to look like $J document.ready function. All right, one thing when writing jQuery, all of these brackets and parentheses and blah, 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 you will get burned by that if you don't close them off right as you, especially in the beginning. You're going to get burned by that if you don't kind of match your parentheses and match your brackets and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to kind of like to do it all right then and there and then just open it up when everything is all matching. If you're working in an IDE, it will help you tell you, you'll see if I take this out, it'll add like a little squiggle, I think. Maybe, maybe not. Add a little squiggle. On my IDE adds a little squiggle to tell me that I'm missing a parentheses. So if you're unfortunate, it won't tell you, and then you're wondering, you're going through hell at 3 a.m. in the morning wondering why your functions aren't working because you're missing a squiggle. All right, so try to get that all together on the first, when you're first writing it. All right, so we're going to, what we want to do, let's think about this. What we're going to do is when we click on this button here, we want all of this to happen down here, okay? So let's check out this button here. This button is called Get Users A. Let's copy that. Okay, and here. So let's do something about it. So .j class, because it is a class, Get Users A. All right. Now we're waking up the, and of course I've already made a mistake. Don't need that dot. We're waking up the that noun, the Get Users A, that link. Oh, did you see the little squiggle there too, by the way? That did work for that thing. So we're waking up, we're saying, hey, class, Get Users A. get ready, because we're going to hit you up with something. In this particular case, we're going to do a click. So when it's clicked, we pull in this function. Okay. I'll tell you what. First things first. Let's just try this. When we click on it, just put up an alert of hiya or hello. Hello. That's the way my bird says it. Hello. Okay. Let's just try this, okay? Oh, by the way, when you're doing a lot of JavaScript stuff, if you don't know this by now, when you refresh, you want to hit Shift refresh, and the reason why is because that's a hard refresh. A lot of times JavaScript files stay in cache and memory and doesn't reload if you don't actually do a hard refresh. Sometimes it does, sometimes it's smart enough to figure it out. I haven't figured out the rhyme or reason. Sometimes it doesn't, and I'm wondering, why isn't this stuff working? Okay, so this old school still works. Here, what's going to go on? Oh, there we get our hello. So we know that that click action is now working. So now let's do something for real. Okay, well, we don't need the hello anymore. Let's do something for real. There's a thing in jQuery. It's already, like I said, all this stuff, all this ready state stuff, all of this open, set request header, send params, it's already pre-built into jQuery into a single function called AJAX. How lovely is that? Dot AJAX. And of course I'm getting my grammar wrong already. My brackets. Now, because there are always so many brackets, and I don't ever want to get lost in my brackets, I do like the indentation and trying to keep it nice and neat so it's easy to read. So if I sit there and I do that in front of you, you know why. Because this way it's really easy to keep track of what is a child of another, what function belongs to another. So let's do this. We know what the URL is. This URL, we know that we want to call the little mini function, this little get users, this little mini PHP stuff that we had done in lesson 3. We know we want to call that. It's the same function. We want same functionality. We're just kind of wrapping it different. So that would be AJAX. Let's put this in there, get users.php. And in typical JSON style, we're going to do the key with the value with a comma. Okay? We also know that the type of AJAX that we want to do is post. This post relates to that thing. Okay? And we also know that let's send over data, and this is the notation for it, FYI. Did I do that notation right? No, I don't think I did. This is why I need help. Here we go. Data. Okay. And once again, just like above, we're going to send over some dummy information. Okay. And then what we're going to do is, well, once we got to determine once it's the results are sent back, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Who's going to get the results? So we're going to say it's a parameter called success. On success, if it's successful, if this going out and coming back is successful, if nothing's broken, none of the AJAX, none of the XML, or none of the databasing stuff is broken, well then let's do this. This is put all the results from here, put the results into a variable called results. I can call it R if you want, if that's easier. But so put the data that we get back from AJAX get users into results. And we're going to put those results into, what is this called? Grid D, right? We're going to put it here, not here. We're going to put it here. So it's going to be and it's a class. So it's going to be dot grid D. Dot grid D. All right. There's a function called HTML, which means put the results in as inner HTML. So basically, this line here is mirroring this line. How come it's not highlighting here? Okay. Cool. Let's try it. Let's save it. Let's try it. Reload, shift reload on this. Old school still works? Yes, it does. New school. It's failing. And I wonder why that is. All right, well, let's go back to the code and see if we can figure out why that's failing. Oh, because this, for some reason, is separated. It's weird. I don't know what happened just there. Let's try that again. Still failing. Get users, AJAX get users.php, post, let's see, oh, this might need this here. One thing you will find out is that jQuery, JavaScript, if you haven't worked a lot with JavaScript, you'll find out that jQuery, JavaScript, they're all very weird about their notation. If your notation is off just a little, it will fail. And there it goes. Totally works. But it didn't have the nice little, the nice little spinner. Okay, well, cool. Let's go put the spinner in there. How do we do that? Well, luckily, to mirror this line, there's a thing called before send. And before send, we're basically going to do the same thing as here. All right? But instead of results, we're going to put the spinner in there. I'm going to get rid of that too. Okay? Let's try it. Shift R. Old school. New school. And the spinner hits up. And we're going to get results. Did I just kill it? I just killed it. Let's check that out. Before send. Oh, yeah. It likes this. Again, once again, functionality. Functionality. Really likes its stuff. Let's try that, shall we? jQuery likes its anonymous functions. All right, there it is. All right, so basically, we did our specific JS file. It's pretty cool. Our AJAX mini script did not have to change. How cool was that? We used the same script to do the same thing. It's not about the mini script. It's about the way the jQuery is a JavaScript framework. So it's just the way that the JavaScript, the data was carried over, but the actual work is still the same. And of course, don't forget the CSS, which is having this nice little border here. I'm sure you could do it on your own. But that's it. And there you go. The same thing up here. This old school way, the handwork way. All done here with jQuery. And the reason why we like jQuery is because it took us all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lines to do it, as opposed to this plus all of this. This will now We'll never have to worry about that again. Okay? Plus, you can add other stuff to it. Pretty simple. All right, and there you go. Our first little app, our first little interaction with jQuery works like a charm. Thanks for watching.